Alrighty. I think we're ready to go.
Let's
What
do
say you,
it.
Casey? All right. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to those of you joining us live, to those of you watching a little bit later on the recording. Welcome. We're so glad to have you with us. We are so excited all about NODAC 2026 for Atlanta, and that you're interested in submitting an ed session. You're in the right spot. We're going to have some great information, some good conversation, and really set ourselves up for some awesome things to come in Atlanta 2026.
Exciting times.
All right. So my name is Brandon Cash. I use him as pronouns, and I serve as the Director of Student Activities at St. Olaf College in Northfield, Minnesota. I am one half, the lesser half, of the educational programs team for NODAC 2026 with the illustrious, the lovely Casey Ford. Casey, tell us about yourself.
I'd love to. Thank you, better half, Brandon. My name is Casey Ford. Good to see all of you today. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as the Director of Student Experience in the Center for Student Leadership and Engagement over at Clemson University. And I serve as the other of our educational programs co-chair pair.
Yeah. And we do not do this work alone, of course. We work with a great, great team of awesome, awesome folks. And that great, awesome team is led by none other than Chris Landry. Chris works at Auburn University. He is our fearless leader, our conference chair. So we want to give him a shout out for all the great work that he's doing in keeping Casey and I on task to make sure that we have just the most wonderful conference experience. So shout out to Chris and thank you for all that you do.
All right. So we will jump in here. We know that it may feel early to be thinking about educational sessions for this year's NODAC, but we know as OTR professionals that it just is not. And these things have a way of sneaking up on us. And so we wanted to really dedicate some time now that the call for sessions is open, but before we potentially launch into kind of the next wave of busyness to have some initial conversations around submitting educational sessions. What are some things to consider? What might be helpful to keep in mind at this point in the year? So we are going to do just that. We'll talk through all the session types that are available to you this year. We've got some new pillars. So for those of you who have attended before and maybe are familiar with the cornerstones from last year and some other kind of guiding elements from the past. We've got some updated versions of those called our conference pillars that we'll talk through. Um, we will talk through the call for sessions, all that is entailed in that process, kind of some pieces to be putting together as you are preparing your submission, and then some final tips, tricks, and resources as we go along.
All right. So we're going to dive in first to those session types. So if you were able to join us in San Francisco, these four types are going to look somewhat familiar to you. They haven't shifted. But if you weren't able to join us, or it's maybe been a minute, or if it's your first NODAC, love that. Very excited. These are the opportunities that exist for educational programs. So the first is what you might think of as a traditional educational session. So those are about 50 minutes long. And that's really, we're looking at best practices, we're looking at the research, looking at what ideas do you have to share, right? Tell your story a little bit of what's happening on your campus, the partnerships that you're doing. Casey's going to talk about our pillars in a little bit. This might be a great spot to tie some of those in. But your traditional presentation style sessions are going to be those education sessions. Our second option is a roundtable. So really focus on conversation, on discussion, bringing folks together perhaps with a similar identity, be it professional, personal, really to dive deeper into a particular topic. And so if you're looking to expand upon or advance conversations in a certain way within that OTR realm, this is going to be the best option for you. Number three, one of my personal favorites, I always give a shout out to Jennifer Souza for this one, are the skills briefs. Love these. They're hands-on, very intentional workshops on a skill, right? We all have different skills. You all have some talented people, right? You have skills to share. And so this looks at skills that can help us advance our work in orientation, transition, retention. Could be around design, could be around tools that you're using, but ways that you can show, innovative pathways to best augment, advance, make more efficient our work. And we've seen some really cool things come out of skills briefs. So if that's you, would love to see some robust skills briefs this year. And last but certainly not least, new last year in San Francisco and coming back stronger than ever is the Resource and Research Fair. And this is a super cool experience. It's an exhibit hall style session with posters and the ability to interact with a lot of people all at once on different ideas, both on that resource side and that research side. And just to share just a little bit more about the Resource and Research Fair, because it is still pretty new for NODA. This is a chance where you can connect with multiple presenters all at once. We have some dedicated time in the schedule where you're going to be able to travel around that space, really hear both on the resource side, what are cool things that you've developed for your campus. Maybe there are different practices, maybe it's about the partnerships that you've done, different ways to highlight that and engage with different people to take some things home with you, right? What might you want to think or explore further on your own campus? But also on the research side. So either research that's being done, we have really brilliant humans in the association that are both pursuing degree programs and not, doing great research. Maybe it's some innovative assessment practices that you've been doing on your campus. Would love to hear more about those through a poster session. And so it's meant to be this organic opportunity to really share our knowledge across the association. And so if you have something to share in any way, shape, or form, this could be a really awesome spot. And we'd love to see just excited folks presenting on all the great work that they're doing across the association. The other piece I'll share is this is a great area for multiple functional areas. Sometimes I think, we come together, but OTR work is not one office for most of us on our campuses, right? And so are there partnership areas that you can use the Resource and Research Fair to highlight? Maybe there's academic versus student life or student affairs. Are you bringing in other partners and the work that you're doing on your campus? Even if they can't physically join you, this might be a great way to showcase how that work happens on your own college or university campus. And so again, a really robust opportunity here. And so if you think that you have that right topic to really engage folks through a poster session or maybe a table demonstration of a resource, this is going to be for you. And it's a really great space that we're excited to curate together.
All right. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we as a committee have been having many conversations around this theme of rising together, what it is that we hope to kind of discuss throughout the conference, and some ways that we can kind of think about what that theme means. And so over the last few months, we have established 4 conference pillars. And we are hopeful that you can use these as a guide as you begin to think about submitting your session. So this year, our conference pillars are collaborate, cultivate, elevate, and celebrate. We had quite the time landing on as many words as we could think of that ended in 8. And have established that of all the things that we really hope attendees leave with and come together to share, that much of that falls into one or multiple of these categories. So this idea of collaborate, I think, especially as it relates to building out your ed session, where are areas in your work or on your campus where you have formed some really strong campus partnerships? How have you been able to do your job, to accomplish your work in a way that really brings in folks outside of your particular office, whether that is across campus or in your local community? And what about that experience might you have to share that really influences or inspires attendees to do something similar on their campus? Cultivate for us is really about the foundations, right? Where in some of the foundational OTR work that we all do have you really found success? Is there a student leader training approach that has been helpful? Is there a solid foundation for assessment in your programs or in your area that you would really love to share with folks? What are some of those kind of OTR 101, if you will, topics and other ways that you have cultivated some strong foundations that you would want to share through an ed session? Elevate for us is really about where are we on the cutting edge? Where have we taken a program or a practice or a model that maybe has worked well for us, maybe hasn't, but has been in existence for a while, and have found ways to change that to elevate? Where are the areas in our work with our students, in our programs, where we've found opportunities to level up? Thinking through some of those pieces that you would offer to other attendees in the field. And then finally, celebrate. We talk about this one a lot. We're really hopeful that we are able to weave this into our conference at multiple points. But a huge piece of the annual conference is about celebrating who we are, celebrating the work that we've done, celebrating what has gone well, both in our lives as professionals and across our program. So what are the wins that really stand out to you when you think about your practice? and what is the value of those victories that might be appealing and adaptable to our other attendees. So we want to offer those as just some words to think about as you are continuing to consider what you might propose. We've got on the call for sessions and on the website full descriptions of each of those pillars for you to think through. And then as we get closer to the actual building out of our presentation, we will have some specific guided questions for each pillar that you can hopefully work into your specific presentation. So that is this year's pillars.
So the call for sessions is live, friends. It is live, ready to go, active. And so we are actively seeking sessions for NODAC 2026. A couple of key things to keep in mind here. June 26th, important date. That is when the call for sessions will close. And so again, as Casey was saying, we're looking at a little bit of an on-ramp, right? We got some time, and yet we work in OTR. And so that time is going to fly by real fast here. And so keep that date in mind, June 26th. We have a pretty robust timeline in mind here because we want to make sure that we're getting information to folks quickly. And so those will close. Review is going to start pretty fast after that July 4th holiday on the 6th. And then we got about a month here that we want to turn those decisions around to you all who are submitting sessions. So you have time to register for the conference. You have a lot of time to really make sure that you're building up a successful presentation, roundtable discussion, poster, whatever sort of way you're engaging. Want to make sure you have time to do that. So excited to make sure that we're keeping that in mind. I want to talk a little bit about how does this all work, right? So we use what's called Sessionize. If you've presented or submitted a presentation at a past NODAC for a couple of years now, or perhaps a regional conference, or some of our spring learning conferences now, you might be familiar with Sessionize. Great tool. The beauty of it too is if you have used it before, some of those past sessions are going to be in there so you can sort of see some of those elements. But if you haven't used it before, don't fret. No need to worry. It's actually pretty easy to use. So we're going to take some time here to showcase what we're looking at. So this is our call for sessions page here on the NODAC website. Everything you're going to need to know about submitting sessions is going to be here on this page. Right up top, this submit a session button is going to be your best friend. That's going to take you to Sessionize itself. So I want to pull that up just so you can see a little bit about what we're working with here. So I'll zoom in for folks. This is going to be the form. It talks a little bit about how that process is going to work. It's going to be a form that's dynamic, right? In the sense that as you fill out certain questions, or maybe you select certain things from a drop-down, new questions are going to come up, which can be lovely when you're looking at a form, but it can be tricky, right, as you're trying to build and plan ahead for that session or for your submission. And so that's where we have a special tool for y'all to help make it a little bit easier here. If you scroll down here towards the middle of the page, there's this Education Session Submission Guide. It's a really long name for a document. But the goal here is that it's a helpful tool as you all are planning ahead for your sessions. So let's take a look at that a little bit closer. So it opens up as a Google Doc. This is one where you are able to make a copy of this Google Doc so you can edit it, you can type in it, you can check the little check boxes just to make sure that we're ready to go and that as you build your session, you don't have to worry about doing that in the form itself because that can be tricky with saving and wanting to go back and edit. So we're hopefully making it as easy as possible for you. And so each of these sections come directly from that Sessionize form. And so you'll see things like the session title, the session description, the shorthand title that goes into the mobile application. All of these things now on a Google Doc, you can create and edit and collaborate as well. So you can work with any co-presenters. They'll ask you certain questions where you have to pick and choose from a dropdown. So like the session type, the skills brief category, if you choose a skills brief. So this document really talks through each of those different sections, each of the sub questions too, right? If you check a box and it opens up additional questions, we try to really make sure that it's comprehensive so that it's easy to go through in full. And as soon as you're ready to go, you've got all your pieces together, your outline is there. Maybe you include some assessment and best practice information that you can then copy paste right? We want this to be as easy as humanly possible because you all have great things to share, and we want to make sure that we capture those through the call for sessions. And so this is available on our website again. This page is a great place to go. You can see our pillars, you can see the different types of sessions, the call for reviewers as well. And so this is a great place to bookmark or keep handy as you are looking at submitting your education session for NODAC. All right, we'll get back to presentation and kick it back to Casey.
All right. So, as I said in the beginning, I know it may feel a little early to start thinking through some of these pieces, but we want to, again, make sure that we are carving out some time to just begin the process of thinking through what submission will look and feel like, and some of what we believe are some solid tips and tricks to help you in that process. So, the first one we would offer is start with the end in mind. I think sometimes, particularly when you're thinking through all of the pieces that need to be submitted, can be a little bit overwhelming to figure out how to attack that process. If you can spend some time now thinking about what is the takeaway that I hope attendees leave with, what is the final message, the thesis statement, if you will, that I'm hoping to convey, and then kind of work backwards from there, right? So if we can funnel with kind of the large takeaway or the large idea, that can often help us figure out, okay, well, what are the steps that I need to take in order to share that message in a way that makes sense for this modality? Say what you mean and mean what you say. I think sometimes there is a little bit of a temptation to present a certain idea or topic in an initial educational session proposal that may not quite align or match perfectly with what we do end up presenting, right? And if you maybe are considering your experience as an attendee of sessions in the past, you may have had that experience well, right? So you see something on Guidebook or on the conference app that feels relevant to a problem that you're trying to solve or a message that you've really been hoping to engage with, and so you sign up and then you attend, and maybe that is not quite what you were hoping would be conveyed based on that description. So, kind of in line with that next one, catchy titles matter, but let's keep it real. I think we want to be really focused on, yes, how can I brand what it is I have to say in a way that's going to get some traction, get some eyes, right? And also, how can we make sure that that is consistent with the actual content that we are prepared to share? And so, trying to think through what can I submit now in this sort of call for sessions time that is going to be something that I can follow through on with what I say in November. Consider anchoring your message in one of our conference pillars. As we go along, will have some specific questions too in your conference ed session slide template to help with this process. So some reflection pieces to help consider how can I actually weave a pillar or multiple into my actual session, and then some questions to help think through again which pillar maybe is most aligned with the content that I'm trying to share in this proposal. Fill in the gaps in OTR. I think we talk a lot about some of what tend to be really, really hit on, really discussed topics at the annual conference space, and maybe some others that aren't given as much stage time, right? And so if there are aspects of your work in transition or in a retention program that you've been working on, or in family programs land, or in assessment, something that is maybe from your perspective, kind of a gap that you see that needs to be filled. What might you have to say that helps fill that gap? Something to consider. And then use the submission guide. Brandon just showed you a really lovely, really comprehensive and complete guide. That takes the mystery out of session eyes, that helps you be super prepared to have what you need when it is time to actually go in and fill those blanks. So definitely use that as a guide as you are gathering all information necessary. Some other tricks that we would offer as well, certainly not an opportunity to revamp NODA regional proposals. If there is an experience that you have shared before, or something that you have already spent a lot of time researching or sharing with other folks, maybe in a space that is not the annual conference that you think could be tailored for the annual conference, certainly an opportunity to do that. Know that you are the expert in your area, as the same way that we often train students, right? You are speaking from your own experience. And so what is it about your own experience that you believe could really be valuable to others? Attend webinars and utilize resources. Shameless plug. We would love to help as you are crafting what it is that you want to share, and we'd love to be a sounding board for you in that space. And then finally, start now so you have something to finish later. I don't know about you. The thing that I need to do to make sure that I'm on track is to take one step. If I know I've got to, work on a project that's going to involve some initial outreach to someone, I'm at least going to start that email. So it is staring at me from a drafts folder, encouraging me to circle back and not lose sight of what is next in that process. And so, whatever that means to you, if that is literally creating the Word document and starting from there, if that is, um, opening that session guide and bookmarking it on your tabs. I think whatever feels like a solid first step so that we are not in crunch time, weeks, months from now, kind of scrambling to start the process. Any other tricks that you'd add, Brandon?
Not that I can think of. I think for me it's you know what you know and share it, right? You have I guess that's the piece is you have stuff to share, right? The trick is thinking almost like what is something that I would want to take away from this experience? We want everyone to go to NODAC, yes, for the connections and for some fun, of course. But we're also learning from each other, right? So think about what both topically you'd want to hear from other folks, but also what types of engagement, what tools or ways of framing information work for you. Because that, thinking about how you like to learn might be a way to help really create some meaningful, robust sessions. So yeah.
Indeed. And then some final resources for you as we go along. I know we've shared this kind of throughout, but certainly ask questions. Like we said, we are here to help and guide you through that process. And so we've got our conference committee email up there. Attend the workshops. This is one of two webinars coming up that Brandon will share more about in just a bit, but we've also got some office hours set up, some different opportunities for you to connect with us pretty informally. Again, just as space, even if it's helpful for you to have, an hour blocked on your calendar kind of mentally devote to this space. We are happy to do that. And then certainly staying connected to us through the NODAC webpage, through our social media, the NODA Instagram, and then all of our notifications and other association emails. Any questions?
Questions. We're just so good. We covered
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, we covered it, is what I'm hearing.
I think again, one of the questions that I've gotten in the past for when I was on a regional team for ed sessions that might be helpful too is people ask, what topics are you looking for? Like, are we,
Mm.
Casey and Brandon looking for? The answer is everything, right? Which I realize is not a helpful answer to that question. But again, it's really across the O, the T, and the R. We get a lot of O. I think, if you've attended any NODA conference of any size in the past, there's a lot of O. So if you have content or stories or resources within that transition and that retention realm, those are awesome and definitely sought after. I think the other thing would be thinking about our different populations, right? In terms of both role, what type of focus you have, maybe what population you're working with, but also what level you're at. And so if you're listening to this webinar and you're what we call a strategic professional, right? Someone who's been around for several years, who really has a depth and breadth of knowledge, think about what does it look like to share that kind of information with your colleagues who have a similar level of experience, right? So thinking about those sorts of things is really helpful too, to make sure that we have a robust offering so that everybody has something that they can take away from NODA. And so that's one thing I know that comes to mind. I would also say ask your people, right? So you've hopefully made connections throughout the association. If you haven't, I'm happy to be a friend. We could be connections. But asking colleagues, what would you find helpful? Ask your team. If I were to go to this conference, what would you want me to learn or take away? That could either A, inspire you all to come up with a topic, or B, as you're talking with other folks, inspire someone else to then address those questions that you have. So don't be shy to tap into the network too, to think about topics and make sure that we're representing across our field.
Mm. Yeah, I think I'm also cognizant too of folks who are new to NODA entirely, and maybe
Yeah.
this is the first annual conference that you'll experience. Maybe this is the first version of, educational session preparation submission. And so even if it would be helpful to hear even some examples, some previous session examples, some what is an example of a topic that maybe is addressed in this space, or what is an example of a skills brief that has been helpful, in the past. We can certainly provide those too. Understand that this
Yeah.
may feel a little vague and a little broad if that's not something that you've encountered before, but um, would just affirm and encourage that there is very likely something that you are connected to, a piece of your work, a piece of what's going on your campus that is absolutely of value to others. And so certainly don't count yourself out, even if this is kind of the new experience for you. Would definitely consider what it is that you have to share.
Amazing. Yeah. Don't see any other questions. If/when questions do arise, we got a way to talk to us, right? So we'll
Sure.
talk a little bit about what's next. But we also have our NODAC 2026 email. It's on our call for sessions page too. So if questions arise, please don't be shy. That's literally our job, is to be here to help. So please make sure you reach out. But a little bit of what is on the horizon. If you loved this webinar, don't worry, there's another one. October feels really far away, and yet it'll be here, folks. It will. So October 9th, same time frame, noon central. That's when we're talking about preparing your presentation. So we'll reach out specifically to our folks who will be joining us at NODAC, sharing their knowledge, sharing their information through any of our different types of education programs to talk about how do we really, again, build that robust experience that aligns with the pillars and the goals that you have as a presenter to best tell your story, to best also provide an experience for attendees to take away that knowledge. So we'll talk about that come October. Before then, in the meantime, we have some office hours. So again, as Casey was talking about, we're here, we're approachable, we want to talk to you. So swing on by. We're just here to answer questions. We can talk through. I love, Casey, what you shared about, past examples. If you're feeling stuck about maybe where to start, let's talk about it. So come to office hours. That's what we're here for, in a very casual and supportive space to really help you set up for success with all things NODAC. But with that, I think that's just about everything we've got today. So we'll see you in Atlanta, friends. It's going to be a hoot. It's going to be an absolute wonderful time come November in 2026. But yes, we'll see you there.
See you then. Thank y'all.